So one thing that I see agents fall kind of short on is actually getting the property ready or positioning the property for market. And I go through a huge checklist with my partners because when we do a renovation on a house, or even whenever I'm going to list a client's house, there's a lot of things that I want to prepare the house for. And the first thing is are you trying to get top dollar for the house, or are you trying to sell the house as is? Because those are two different types of strategies to sell a property. So I'm going to specifically be talking about the top dollar strategy. And there's a lot of things that goes into preparing a house for market when you are trying to maximize the dollars in the property. And the first thing is updates and repairs. So for example, I went and listed a property and the husband was like, hey, we've lived in this house for, 15 years. We haven't done updates to it. What would you recommend us do so we can maximize the value in the home? And it was pretty much the simple things, right? Power wash the house, clean everything out, declutter the homes, paint the exterior, paint the interior. This particular property, we didn't, swap out countertops and stuff like that and hardware. But when you think about maximizing the value of the home, you want to position the property as best as you possibly can. So doing necessary updates to the property, if there's wallpaper that's peeling in the bathrooms, just pull it down. If there's children's rooms that are painted, bright pink or rainbow or purple, you might want to consider decluttering the home and painting them. Because remember, when people are walking in houses, they're looking at the house and they're trying to see if their family's needs fit that particular house. Those of you that have toured buyers, you guys know this. Same thing with sellers. You have to prepare the house for people to come in there to visualize themselves living in the home. So another thing that we do are pre-inspections. Now, a lot of agents are going to have different opinions about this. We're in the business of disclosure, right? The more you disclose, in my opinion, the better. You do not want to be in a situation where your seller fills out the seller disclosure and there's some things that you may not know about the house. Maybe there was a roof claim. Maybe there was a plumbing claim. This has happened with me in some contracts that I've been in over the last couple of years, where my buyer goes to get their insurance and they find out that there was $26,000 paid out in a roof leak and drywall and all these things that they did not disclose on the seller's disclosure. So most people don't know what's wrong with the house. There's a lot of things behind the walls, up in the attic, underneath the house. There's some things that could be outside of code. The electrical boxes could be in bad shape. There's a lot of things that kind of come up in inspection reports. So I'm of the opinion that if we're going to get top dollar for this house, I want to position the property as best as we possibly can, right? This is a team effort between you, the listing agent, and the owners. It's a team effort. So we want to position the property as best as we possibly can. So getting a pre-inspection and going through that inspection report and then hiring the necessary professional trades, the master plumber, the master electrician. Those are the guys that actually have to pull permits if there's going to be any type of work done on the property. So you want to make sure that you get a reputable electrician and plumbing. And those are the two things that typically come up in an inspection report that I see kind of over and over and over. And that's a way for you guys to mitigate any challenges or any type of negotiation after contract for the buyers to try to get a reduction in the price. Because remember, you're trying to maximize the net number to the sellers. So you may or may not want to do this. Everybody's a little different. Like I said, everyone's going to have a completely different opinion on getting a pre-inspection. But when you're trying to maximize the dollars in the home, my opinion is I would rather see an inspection report with a very thorough seller's disclosure filled out, and those two in conjunction with each other that are added in the transaction desk, in the document section of the MLS. So my opinion is the seller's disclosure really doesn't disclose fill in the blank, right? I'm sure all of you guys, all you agents that have been in the business a while have had those situations where you get under contract. Even as a listing agent, things will come up that the sellers forgot about, or they just didn't really know, honestly. So I like to do pre-inspections before we position the house to the market. I like to have everything as tidy as possible. The next thing is staging and decluttering the home and cleaning the property. Having that conversation with your clients about, look, you plan on moving out of the house, correct? Well, that closet, that's actually a big space. If you decluttered that closet and made it look a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Usable, right? There's a lot of closets under stairs. There's closets in, sides of game rooms and stuff like that. So decluttering the house before you get the property ready for photography is really important. It's the same thing with all the photos and pictures and things on the walls and the decorations. I'm sure you guys have walked into those houses where there's 50 things hanging on the walls above the cabinets in the kitchens. Those things are all distractions. They're distractions to the people walking through the house. And a lot of times, if the house could have really solid bones, what we like to call it, but if you're walking through the property and there's all these things hanging off the walls and you got to walk around furniture, like people can't visualize themselves living in the homes. And that's what you want to do, is you want to position the property as best as they possibly can for that particular home. So decluttering the house is very, very important. Maybe it's time for them to do some garage sales. So preparing the property for market, it isn't something that you just show up on a Friday and then within a couple of days, you list the house. I think a lot of agents fall short in setting expectations with their clients to get properties ready for market. You've all seen them, the terrible photos, and they're trying to get top dollar. The next thing you know, they're reducing the price reduction. And there's a reason for that. There's some psychology behind that as well. So staging the property and cleaning the property. I can't tell you how many times I've walked through properties with clients and the house is just filthy. Even if the house may work for them, it may smell funny or may just leave a bad taste in their mouth. There's a number of things that will turn people off from properties. But remember, whenever you're positioning a property for market, you want to maximize the property's potential, especially if there's some amenities in the property or there's a beautiful patio, if there's pergolas or anything like that. You want to highlight those. You want to make sure that the flow of the house, when you walk in the front door, that it flows nicely. That's something that my investing in partner and I do quite a bit. We remodel a lot of old houses and we remove walls, put the big LVLs in there and open up the kitchens, and people absolutely love it. So when they walk into our homes, we want people to walk in and the word wow come out of their mouth. The first thing, wow. And we manicure the properties from the curb all the way through the entire house, exterior trees, bushes, the landscaping, all the way to the back. We dig out all the rocks and brick. We sod everything. Like, we go through and manicure these properties to where they're so detailed that people have a different type of respect or a different level of, oh my gosh, like this property is gorgeous. So it comes down to that staging. It comes down to that positioning, cleaning the property, making, especially if they've done some updates, all the cabinets are dusty on the inside, under the countertops, under the tables. You really want to make sure that these properties are staged properly. If you don't have a stager in your team or on your network, reach out to some agents in your local market. Everyone loves to share their best vendors. So I'm sure you've experienced that. So make sure you have a staging company in your back pocket, and that be a part of your listing presentation too. So you should have like a stack of marketing, like, hey, for an 8% listing, we're going to do X, Y, Z. We're going to do this. For a 6% listing, we're going to do this. However you want to do your listing presentations is up to you. But talking about that, having that conversation with the sellers about, look, people are coming in here to see how their family would fit if this property fits their needs. So you've got to declutter your personal items, your photos, all those other things that kind of come into play. Like, I'm sure if any of you have walked into a model home for a new construction, they're absolutely stunning. They're absolutely gorgeous. And they're kind of depersonalized, right? There'll be love, or there'll be faith, or there'll be different words around the property that kind of uplift you and give you kind of a good feeling. But if you compare that to some of the listings that maybe you've had in the past, and think to yourself, like, okay, how can I best position this property? I need to have a thorough conversation with the owners and make sure that we're on the same page, that they understand that they're trying to position their property for top dollar in the market. You want someone to fall in love with the house. So the photography is something that, in my opinion, I don't think that it costs too much to have professional photos. There's a lot of professional photographers that'll come out for $100. If you're in real estate and you're not spending a couple $100s on photos, shame on you, because positioning the property for market is the very first thing that you do. It's the first thing that the public sees. I'm sure that you guys have seen those photos where the very first photo was taken with the phone, and it's like a picture of the interior of the house. And then there's some random photos around. Take people through a journey when they're clicking through the photos, from the front, a couple different angles. A huge trend, upside down photos. A huge trend right now is editing the photos. So boxbrownie.com, BOX, just like brownie that you would eat, boxbrownie.com. After I do the professional photos, I'll take all those I wouldn't say all the high res images, but I'll take several of the high res images and then I'll upload them into boxbrownie.com. And then you can do some additional editing there, which my favorite one is the dusk till dawn effect that adds the purple sky. It'll kind of darken the front of the house, but you have to have some really great photos up front to be able to do that. So drone photography. Is this property in a resort community? Is there something else that you want to highlight in the area? Because remember, the positioning of the listing is also telling a story about the house and where it is, which gets me to one of my next bullet points here is the description. And the drone photography, sometimes it's $100 extra. You can pay for drone video and stuff like that. If you have a really high-end listing, you do want to do drone photography, you want to do drone video, you do want to be able to park that video on YouTube, you want to run it on Facebook. There's a lot of things that you can do for marketing. This particular call, I didn't want to get into the whole marketing aspect because that's a whole nother conversation, but setting expectations with the sellers, going through this checklist, making sure that you're positioning the property as best as that property can possibly show. Documentation. Here's another one that I see a lot of agents fall short on. And when I say documentation, it's what documents can you gather from the seller, from the survey, to have they done upgrades over the years? We always put a list of upgrades. It drives me nuts when I'm looking at listing descriptions and it's like updated house and they start abbreviating everything that's been done to the house. Well, half the stuff, I don't even know what it is. I don't know what all the abbreviations are because everyone abbreviates things a little bit differently. So having a document set in the MLS where an agent can pull it and go, oh, wow, here's an entire list of all the upgrades that it's had. You know, when the roof was replaced, if there was any roof repairs, every single thing that the property's been done. Did they have low E windows installed? What year were they installed? Did they have a 15-SEER 5-ton HVAC unit installed? When was that installed? Is there a warranty on that as well? So that's where you put all that information. And I like to use the description as a way to tell a story about the property, but most agents don't know this either. The description is keyworded as well. So if there's somebody that's relocating to an area, like I live in Plano, Texas, which is a suburb north of Dallas, Texas. And when we list properties here, we're putting in the keywords Toyota headquarters a mile down the road, Legacy West, right off of Highway 75, or if it's on the other side, the Dallas North Tollway, the Dallas Star being 5 miles up the highway. So I'm keywording in specific highlights that this area, because there's so many people that are moving here. And if it's an employee that's looking to move to the area and, you know, if they're going to go work at Toyota or something like that, in that listing description, you can actually keyword your listing description for certain areas and amenities around the property. So we like to tell stories about what it's like to live in the house. What are the things that really make this property special? Is there an outdoor area that has a pergola and really mature trees? I'm not going through the list of everything that the property has, the highlights, the stainless steel, the SS, the granite countertops or marble countertops or whatever the case may be. We may drop a little bit of that in there in the descriptions, but your job is to position the property as best as you possibly can. So the photography with the staging, and then the description will actually get people to the property. Now, whenever they step a foot in, it's actually up to the house, right? The house will sell itself. So the upgrade list, adding that documents to the transaction desk, adding the seller disclosure, as many documents as you can possibly gather to put into a package to have there for the agents to find so they can show that their clients, you know, I'm sure you guys have made offers on properties where the agent didn't respond. There wasn't a seller's disclosure. There's all this missing information. And then you've made offers on properties where the agent took those extra 5 steps and provided a ton of information, right? That you want to be that professional realtor. You want to be a standout, because I vet agents just as much as I vet buyers, right? If I've had people call me and they were just horrible, I just hang up on them. I don't even want to, if they send an offer, I'll present it to my client, but going into a transaction with the agent is, in my opinion, is just as important as vetting the buyers as well, because if there's friction or there's negativity up front before they even write a contract, you can kind of expect what this process is going to be like. I like working with professionals. I like setting myself apart as professionals as well. So having a really great document package for the clients, for the potential buyers. Also, when you do your, if you're going to put any type of information on the countertop in the kitchen, we always like to print out the seller's disclosure. I'll go into RPR and I'll do a property report that has all the school ratings and everything else. I love to put all that information right there when they walk in. So you can have like some flyers set up. You can have some business cards. And then we like to do a 3-ring binder, and that'll also have a list of everything in there. So whenever they tour the property, all the documents that are in the MLS are also printed out in a binder on the countertop. And I know you pros really appreciate that. The clients really appreciate that. So going that extra step and having a really great document package is super important. And then the last thing that I'll say before we kind of open this up is setting expectations with your clients and having a pricing plan. And that can be a combination of, hey, look, these are what the comparables are. These are what the properties are listed for. Maybe we should go tour these houses before we list your house so you can kind of see what other people, how their properties are compared to your property, especially now in this market that we've shifted into, because now, even though that the inventory levels are still considerably low, we're at a 2-month level here in my market, which technically a buyer's market is 6 months or more. But we're in a buyer's market now. If you guys are writing offers on houses, right, everything is shifted back over to the buyers, where we're asking the sellers to pay for title policy, to cover closing costs, so on and so forth. So having that expectation up front with your client, having a pricing plan in place, right? You don't want to say, oh, this house is going to sell for X, because you really don't know what it's going to sell for. You can have an educated guess on what you think it should sell for. But right now, we're not in that market where you list a property for 500 and you have 15, 20 offers at 575 to 600. That's over. So pricing the properties aggressively, almost a little bit under market. You want to position the property to sell fast. So if there is a multiple offer situation, then that might kind of push the bids up. But having that pricing plan in place, having a stack of incentives, and I always say, put your best foot forward up front. Don't try to have this pricing and incentive plan to where 3-4 weeks down the road, oh, let's drop the price to X and then let's add all these incentives in there. I don't think that's a good strategy, right? We're in the business of selling homes. So positioning the property for market up front and having that plan in place is so critical.